What is up, guys? Evanaldo here. Welcome back. Wanted to talk about what's going on in the markets right now. The big question everybody obviously has is will this bounce last? I think there's a decent chance that it can if you look at history, and I'll talk about that now. The biggest thing we could look at here is our it's a halving year, 2024, and we came down in August. Now let's look at we could look at 2020 a little bit here. Let's look at 2020, previous halving year. You came down a lot in March, and then that was the bottom, and you kept going. If we look at August, well, yeah, generally August as well. Into the end of August, you came down, you hit a bottom. This was about let's see what kind of correction this was. It wasn't anything too crazy, about 20%. But you did hit that bottom, and you continued forward. Previous halving year, and if you've watched my videos, you've seen me talk about this. This was interesting from June to about a 30% drop, 38% drop down in August. So all roads right now generally point to a bottom sometime this month. Now the question is, and it was a quick drop down in 2016 too, and a relatively quick recovery. The question is, do you go lower? You hit the big place, you hit just under 50K, huge place, and you jumped up. Larger time frames still look pretty bad, but the question here is, do we have more bearishness to happen? Do we have more bearishness to happen before this plays out? Maybe, maybe not. My view on, in terms of like the Fed doing an emergency, cut or whatever, if the SPY and the NASDAQ keep going down, I could absolutely see that happening. If they recover from here, probably not. My guess, given this big jump up, as long as we hold that 54, pretty big area right there, we should be able to recover. And you got to pay attention to some of these time frames. Money flow is not good on your 6 hour, but you do have we call them snake eyes, the two dots really close to each other, two anchor waves close to each other down here. And these aren't really snake eyes, they're more separated. So I would argue that what we're seeing right here is definitely stronger than these past two, pairs of anchor waves, pairs of green dots. Maybe it's more. I mean, these ones also, similar situation here back in January. Money flow wasn't too good, but you had your green dots together. There's at least going to be something. I would argue there's at least going to be some more upward trajectory. Obviously, anything can happen, but the odds are in our favor for more upward trajectory, potentially back up to 59. If we take off logarithmic and look at some spiral lines 62, I mean, obviously a 60K area is big. Logarithmic spiral lines generally are better. 56 could be the next place that we look at. And when you look at some of these lower time frames, looking pretty good. Textbook Market Cipher strategy here for a potential long on your 15-minute, bringing you up to at least 59.60 there. Maybe if you could hold that, maybe potentially even higher. I don't really think we'll see a V-shaped recovery all the way back up to 69 and new all-time highs that quickly. But what I could see is a slow kind of recovery upward into, maybe something like this. I mean, this was a big jump up, if we look at other areas, maybe this type of recovery. What did we see in bottom in August of last year? A slower type of recovery, maybe something a little bit slower. Maybe we get back to those areas in October or November, and then later December or January, then we finally jump up to new all-time highs, or sometime in Q1 or probably a latest Q2 next year. I would say is when you would see new all-time highs. I mean, unless you think we're going into a bad recession, unless you think it's going to be like just a bloodbath into the election and all that, then we're probably going to make new all-time highs for Bitcoin, and this cycle is probably not over. Also, if you think that we're going to follow the 4-year cycle, this cycle is nowhere near being over, based on that as well. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I do have some longs in. If you guys are interested, check out the Discord down below. A lot of good shorts on the way down. Been killing it so far with this market. Not every trade's going to be right, but I always try to do the best I can in there. Try to help you guys out the most I can. Obviously, it's not financial advice, though. Nobody's going to be right all the time. But if you want one free month in there, if you sign up to any of the links down below for these exchanges, FAIRDESK and BloFin are the best ones for no KYC. Overall, I really like Bybit for the high liquidity. Any of those 3 exchanges, if you deposit at least 100, sign up on my link, deposit at least $100, give you one free month in the Aldo Empire, the VIP Discord. Just open a support ticket in the Discord with your UID once you sign up, and we'll get you sorted. If we move on to Ethereum, obviously it made a new low. It made a new low against Bitcoin. It got to the 0.04 level that a lot of people have been waiting for. when could this bottom out against Bitcoin? I mean, if you're looking at this area, we're way, Fed cut rates in July of 2019, took 2 months after that. If they cut rates in September, which seems very likely, or maybe even earlier if there's emergency rate cut, but probably September, October, November would be potentially the low for this based on that trajectory. But just keep in mind, guys, after it bottoms out, it could come up quickly. If you're looking at for your cycle, it was December of 2016, but look at what happened. I mean, you came up quickly. So if it's like that, if it's December of this year, I mean, you could come down, a bit farther or whatever. I don't know, somewhere around here maybe even. And then you could come up quickly. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. It can come up quickly. Complete bloodbath for Ethereum right now. Huge sell the news thing on the ETF. When you come down this much, that's where most of the time the wicks show a bottom for a while. You know what I mean? That's that possibility. That's most of the time where the wicks show a bottom. Now, can we come down and test 2,000, within the next few months? Maybe, something like that could happen. But it's looking like, at least in the short term, in my opinion, money flow starting to come up here. You got your deep anchor wave on your 6 hour. A lot of stuff could be signaling for a jump higher, 2,600, potentially back up to 2,800, and then this big area at 3,000. My guess is it would be potentially a slow rise upward to these areas, slow rise upward. I mean, every time you could hold a new spider line is good. That's a bullish, kind of bullish sign. And I mean, if you just look at, the drop here, almost a 50% correction. Some exchanges it came down below 2,000, but I think that's a little bit, depending. But, the Coinbase one I like the most for the charts generally, 48% down. So, if you can get the other thing too, like if you can get some of these, like probably on the weekly, we'd have to look up at that weekly trigger forming. 2-week trigger could form soon. Those things could be really bullish and really could start kind of the next leg of all this. And I mean, where could we, if we were to repeat something of, of this nature or whatever, I think end of December of next year, you might be able to see somewhere be 7,000-8,000. I think that's going to be a big area, 7,500. I still think you got a good shot of potentially, getting close, a double, if not close to a double from our previous high over here. So, in the grand scheme of things, unless you think we're going into a bad recession, unless you think it's going to be like 08, unless you think that we're going to fall far away from the 4-year cycle, then we have a good recovery ahead of us. If you look at, I have a lot of good trade setups in Discord, like I mentioned, but just to give you, what I would be kind of looking at here, some situation like this, up to, it is hard because you kind of had a lot of that move. I mean, you could be tight with it. I wouldn't set a stop loss anywhere higher than below this spiral line pocket. That's an important pocket. I mean, you could probably get it's a 1.4 to 1, maybe even, I mean, if you wanted a 3 to 1, you could probably, 4 to 1 almost up there. It depends what you want to do. It depends what you want to do. Here, even like that area, 2 to 1 like that may work. I mean, if you look at, the big place right here is that pocket. That's scene of the crime. Now, if you can break above, I guess this whole situation here, this whole like area you're looking at, right back up to those 2,800, those areas. I'm not trying this the best. I'm not doing the best in terms of, the triple bottom target, you've probably got close to hitting, right there. That's going to be that point, 2,600. If we also could turn off, that's going to be a big point. Yeah, those spiral lines. Look at the linear and the logarithmic spiral lines here. And those, people ask me about the spiral lines a lot. Weak magnet tool from here to this, high of April 23rd on the weekly Heikin-Ashi candles. That's all you kind of need to know. Weak magnet tool to the tops of these, these candles, not the wicks, the candles, and it works out. A lot of good SR points. So that's Ethereum right there. It can continue to bleed, against Bitcoin. I would be more inclined to buy it over Bitcoin when you get, the next kind of 2-week green dot, coming up, anchor waves, that this wave coming up. We may have more blood against Bitcoin, a lot of the alts, but maybe not, we'll see. It may be just that Bitcoin recovers a lot quicker than the alts and they kind of stay more stagnant. Bitcoin dominance, I think it made a new all-time high here, new high of the year here, potentially coming up to 60, jumping up to 60 into the end of the year. If you look at where it topped out last time in the 4-year cycle, it was January of 21. So essentially almost end of December, early January of 21. So it would be, based on that, it would be ended this year, early next year. I'm curious if there was a place where, yeah, I mean, I guess you could argue in the 4-year cycle is kind of, it was November of 2016 there. Well, no, it was really earlier, November of 2015 then generally. I don't think that means anything. I would compare it more to kind of this area. But I think, moral of the story here, end of year, early next year is the time where alts are really going to start to go crazy, I think, against the Bitcoin. That probably could last into the end of 2025, early 2026. So yeah, a few of the alts look decent. I mean, Chainlink really got killed here. What I like about Chainlink is it went back to your kind of scene of the crime area right here, right around like $7, $8, or $8, I should say, and then nice jump up. So that, if it could jump here, continue, you got a shot at some of these higher areas, back to 11, back to some of these areas here. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's not going to go down forever. You probably won't. 64% down. Maybe a recovery is in the books here. Matic is another one that I've been looking at, potentially hitting this major point. That was the low of, where was this? June of 22nd. Hitting that point. I don't think she's going to, completely get destroyed without a fight here. I think you got a good shot of maybe a low risk, high reward trade. Look at that 15-minute, at least getting back up to 43 cents. After that, 45, and then 50. 50 could be a decent area there. 50 could be a decent area. And then if we look at traditional markets, I mean, you're in an election year. Usually at some point in the second half of the election year, you get a 5 to 10% correction for the S&P 500. If we take out the lows, there is a lot of support at 500, obviously. So just keep that in mind. The thing I was looking at here was if we go back to even 2020, most election years, that second half before the election, that was a 10%er. It could be similar to that. In that aspect, if we also go back to 2016 wasn't as bad. It's probably only like a 5%er. About a 5% slowly down there. So that's what we could be looking at. Like I said, unless you think we're going into a bad recession, it's going to be like the Fed's going to wait a while to print money or whatever. Most likely you'd probably see a slow kind of recovery upward into the election. That's what I would kind of guess here. The same thing could be said, probably about crypto as well. So that's what I'm generally looking at, guys. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out the links down below. Remember what I stated. If you want one free month in the Discord, if you sign up to any of the exchanges down below and deposit at least $100, open a support ticket, give you one free month. Just open the support ticket like I mentioned. All right, guys, have a good one. Goodbye.